I'm about to piss off a lot of people. To understand true Kabbalah, in a way, you have to be Jewish. I'm going to be upfront.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for jumping on. We have a special guest today, Brother Sean Rothberg, and he is here to talk to us about Jewish Kabbalah. This is going to be like an introductory course. I'll just hand it over to you.
Okay, so Kabbalah. We're talking about the K, not the Q, not the C, not any of the others. We're talking about the K, the Jewish Kabbalah. Kabbalah comes from God, or if I want to call it HaKadosh Baruch Hu, blessed be the name, and he gave it to Adam, and then Adam kind of had a gist of Kabbalah, so that's why he was able to understand what the animals are going to be called. What is a camel? What is a cow? What is a dog? All that stuff. If you looked in Bereshit, when Adam and Chava were actually naming the animals, the question that a lot of people ponder is, why did he name this animal that name? He was able to look at the traits of the animals and actually understand Kabbalistically what they were going to be called. So later on, he actually transferred that craftsmanship, using a little Masonic lingo, onto his generations. And with Noah had some of that, and later on, it went all the way down to the patriarchs, and then went to Moses, or in Hebrew, I'll call it Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses the teacher, and he also continued on the trait of Kabbalah. Later on, Kabbalah evolved into certain rabbis, certain Kabbalistic rabbis. The Arizal, you can always go back to him. He's the one who started with the, why am I trying to blank? There's the Tanya, there's the Zohar, and all the other stuff. So first of all, the Zohar is Kabbalah. But the problem that a lot of people don't realize is, to understand the Zohar, you actually have to understand the basics. And the Masonic argument that I'm going to use is, you're not going to jump to Scottish Rite without learning Blue Lodge first. You're not going to learn chapter, council, commandery. You're not going to learn any of the other stuff without learning Blue Lodge first. So a lot of people will think they understand the Bible, and then they're going to go into buying a Zohar or the Tanya, which is very, very complicated. I've only gone through a few chapters of the Tanya, I can tell you that much. And the Zohar, but the problem that a lot of people get is, they think they get it, but they really don't. So as one rabbi told me, who spent years studying true Kabbalah, is he feels like he's just a butterfly who dipped his wings into Torah. That he understands so much, but he understands so little. I mean, you can buy books and books on Kabbalah. I can recommend, actually, right now, looking at them, I have a translation of Sefer Yesera over here, written by Rabbi Ari Kaplan. I have the Bahir, translated by Rabbi Ari Kaplan, which he is a rabbi who a lot of people will go towards. I have Anatomy of the Soul, actually translated by Rabbi Chaim Kramer, but it's the Breslev. It's Kabbalah of the whole body, which I actually went through myself, because it talks about the eyes and the ears and everything Kabbalistically. But to understand some of the terminology, some of the phrases, some of the everything, you have to know the basics. Now, that being said, I'm about to piss off a lot of people. And
That's what we do here, man. That's how we roll.
All right, it's a content warning. Okay, so to understand true Kabbalah, in a way, you have to be Jewish. I'm going to be upfront. And that's what that's what the teachers say. Because to understand, even be accepted by a Kabbalistic rabbi, a Kabbalistic master, you have to be 40 You have to be married. You have to have a boy and a girl. And here's the thing that a lot of people don't, they kind of shoo away. You have to know backwards and forward the Chumash, the Mishnah, the Midrash, the Gemara, and all that. For example, even today, if I wanted to be accepted into a certain yeshiva, they're going to make sure I'm keep kosher, keep Shabbos, keep Shem Nagia, keep Yehud. They're going to challenge me over different tractates of the Gemara. They're going to challenge me over different parshas of the Torah. They're going to challenge me over some stuff like that. And all the teachings originally were oral, and then it was written down, but that was written down like 1600s. The whole deal with Kabbalah, and I know a lot of people are like, I'm studying Kabbalah, I'm a Kabbalistic master. They'll put that on their Facebook page. I've seen that. But the problem is, if you were to ask them certain questions according to Torah. So
my question I have real quick, and I know you and I have had this conversation, but it's been a long time ago.
It's been 3 years. I looked it up.
If you take all the books you're talking about, and then say, hey, I'm going to take all the books from the Bible, right? Like the Christian Bible. Are we talking about like totally different content between these two sets? Is there additional content, or how's that? Because you're mentioning several different things.
Yeah. First of all, that's a great question. For anyone who doesn't know, the Jewish Tanakh, Torah, Nevi'im, and Ketuvim, the Torah, the writings, and the prophets ends at Chronicles 2. We end at Chronicles 2. Y'all have Mark, Peter, Paul, and Mary, and all the other ones. Yeah, you're laughing, Dennis.
And sing Kumbaya with Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the Book of Mary was banned, but yeah.
Yeah, so either way. So whenever people quote like Peter or any of those people, I'm like, we don't have that. But what we do have is we have the Torah, we have the Tanakh. You can buy a good one at artscroll.com, not sponsored by them. But we also have the Talmud, which is the oral Torah, which was given from God to Moses on Mount Sinai, on Har Sinai. And the oral Torah explains the written Torah. The Talmud is broken down with the Mishnah, which is the basis question, and then the Gemara. The Gemara explains the Mishnah. I know this is complicated. It took me years to understand it, but I'm just explaining it right now. These are the extra books that the Jewish people have that explain the reason. So the Torah is the blueprint of life. The Talmud is the expanded universe to explain the blueprint. For example, the Torah will explain what we do. The Talmud explains how we do it. But yeah, so that question actually is a whole basis. So to understand these questions gets very in depth. And the problem that a lot of people have, that whenever they try to study Kabbalah or on their own, is they don't understand the basis behind stuff like that before you get into a detail over. In the Shemona Esrei, why do we take 3 steps back? Why do we cover our right hand over our eyes when we say the Shema? Why do we do certain things?
I've always looked at the Kabbalah as the tree of life and the path from earth to God, basically the pathway. It's hard for me to wrap my head around, in because I'm not Jewish, obviously. It's hard for me to wrap my head around why we would need all the rules. And I'm not trying to debate you or anything, but why we would need all the rules of why we take 2 steps back and before we go forward or whatever. If our goal is to find our path to God, is He not going to let me move from one sphere to the other because I didn't follow these rules exactly? Is that kind of the idea?
You're pissed off about the rules.
Well,
He's a
no,
rule
I'm not.
breaker. Dennis doesn't like rules.
I'm a rebel, man. I'm always going to be pissed.
So the reason why I bring that up is because a lot of people who study Kabbalah, they'll just ignore that kind of stuff. And the simple stuff that we get from the simple stuff that we don't realize, we actually need to bless the one that actually gave it and helped man create it. I know we can all think of something Masonically based on that.
Well, I think on not just on that level, but I also think on a level of nature and Mother Earth. You know, you're really giving your gratitude for the gift of the earth to us, you know, and all it provides. And so with those prayers that you're doing, not saying that you're doing that, you know, broad of a prayer every time, you're doing more specific, but with those prayers, what it's doing is it's attaching you to the reality that God put these gifts on earth for us to live and gave that gift to you. And instead of just saying, thank you for this food, you know, God is great, God is good, let us thank him for this food. Amen. You know, instead of that, you're actually saying, thank you for the gift of the tree and the fruit from the tree. And, you know, so it really does create a stronger connection to the maker in doing something like that. I can definitely see that relation and why it's so important. I can see that.
The reason why a lot of people will, like a lot of Christians will actually dive into Kabbalah, they will forget the simple things. For example, whenever a Jew says hiates on the apple, Kabbalah actually teaches there's an angel in each food, each item, each grain of grass, for example, that is on earth. So whenever a Jew says hiates on the apple, the angel will fly up to Shemayim, to heaven, saying, a Jew just gave a bracha on this apple. And the reason why I brought up the grass is because Kabbalah teaches there is an angel in each blade of grass that God will tell the angel how to sway. So every simple thing on this earth has an angel dedicated for it. What is an angel? Do you want the horror story of what an angel looks like, or do you want the simple answer that we all know?
Let's go with the
We'll
horror
go with
stories.
the fat little cherub angels that everybody.
No, I want.
No, let's get
rings with
let's get
eyes.
the real.
And-
Yeah, let's
Okay,
get
okay,
I want
okay.
the
something
look of the fallen
Cthulhu-
angel that
Cthulhu would
scares
have
us to
nightmares
death.
about.
Okay,
Yes.
so you want the Lovecraftian version of an angel.
Yes,
Well, Dennis left. Okay, so
I'm here. I'm
He
here.
said it was scary. Dennis can't handle scary things very well.
No,
That's why he never looks in the
always,
mirror.
I'm always annoyed that Dennis still has the global Earth when we all know the Earth is flat.
Yes.
Okay,
We're
so
taking
an
baby
angel.
steps.
Don't be hating.
Okay, so Kabbalistically, an angel has 4 heads, it has 8 wings, and it has 1 leg. And the reason why Jews, whenever you see them pray silently, standing up, they will keep their legs together to imitate an angel. And that's
What's weird about him having 4 heads?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, I got you.
And
One on each. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
and
That's
if you
like the. Okay, go ahead.
yeah, so there's a I forgot what each head resembles, but I do know there's 8 wings, 2 that cover their head, 2 that cover 4 that covers their chest, and 2 covers the legs, but they have 1 leg.
Isn't there like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like like almost like a ranking system? Or is that something that is
So there is a ranking system, but each angel does their duty that is dedicated by God. God is the worshipful master of all the angels. None of them really have if they do something, for example, I do want to get into the devil eventually, because that is a whole fun one. But
The
yeah,
fallen angel.
so there is a ranking system of angels, but each angel, each rank has its own designation given by God. So God will say, you are the warden, you're the deacon, you're the steward, you're the marshal, you do all this. And angels have no way of arguing back. That's why we don't have this fallen angel, this battle of good and evil going on, and that we believe in Judaism, because everything goes according to God. God rules. He's a worshipful master. He will never leave the
you're saying from a Kabbalistic perspective, not from a Jewish perspective, right?
When I say Kabbalistic, I also mean Jewish. It's the same thing. And I know Dennis is going to want something based on the talk of something like Paradise Lost, which I know he's read. I've studied that book too. Do you want to know what Kabbalah says about the devil? I'll give you the 2-minute answer on the devil.
There's no 2-minute answers on this show. You know better.
Yeah. Okay. According to Kabbalah, and when I say Kabbalah, sadly I can't quote the page number and the source and everything, because that's according to Judaism. We're taught all that stuff. First of all, we don't have a devil. The devil is a angel by God with a certain trait. We all have a certain evil inclination within us. That evil inclination is within our neshama, or it's with our souls, by God, and it helps us push ourselves toward better. There is no, like, the devil made me do it. We don't believe that. Your evil inclination made you do that, but the devil did not make you do that. You did it yourself, and that is the whole deal. So the whole devil thing is an evil inclination. In Hebrew, is called Hatsatan, the devil. However, that's a bad translation. It's more the evil inclination. And yeah, that's the whole deal. And then we have the Grim Reaper, but that's actually an angel that works for God, that actually has his own service and his own duty, just like the whole levels of angels. They don't work independently. They work by God, for God, with God's duties that he gave them to do.
You're saying, I have a lot of questions, that there's no devil per se. It's just the nature that we all have.
I agree.
Okay. So, well then I got a few questions. As far as Adam goes, he went against God, and partook of the tree of life, right?
Yeah.
Does that mean that this was something that was already understood that he was going to do?
I know what you're asking, and that is a very, 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 very muy complicated.
Yeah.
Why did I just blank on the Spanish? Complicated issue.
And controversial.
Okay, so if you really want to go base, the snake, and Judaism, we're taught the snake actually, we all know the snake actually had legs. And then after God punched the snake, then the snake, he said, you're going to be slithering on the earth, where you can have all the crap you want. Okay, you can say that the snake went against God, but you can also argue that God actually tested Adam to do all this. So, on one hand, you can say the snake actually did God's bidding, but God also knew that Adam would eat from that. But he also said, "Don't do it." Mm-hmm. So you can say this was actually the future generation to learn from the past. Of if someone tells you, "Hey, come eat me, sleep with me, whatever with me," don't do it, even if it's a. I wish I could do that with my eyebrows.
It seems like a chicken or the egg scenario to me, from my perspective.
It's more of a double-edged sword in my mind.
I see.
Because you can say on one hand, don't do it. But on the other hand, God knew he was going to do it. So, yeah, Dennis.
As I was going to say earlier, is that God is both good and bad, if you want to say that. Really, all things of God are good because they are from God, but we feel that they're bad, right? So, with the only way that we could understand good and bad is if we had the knowledge of good and bad. So God had to create this situation
Mhm.
to where we would gain that knowledge between good and bad so that we would be able to, like you said, learn from it later
Mhm.
that, we don't do this because of if then, if we do this, then this is going to happen. So God, in his ultimate, in his her ultimate wisdom, made both happen, and they were both good because it created the balance that we need as humans to be able to survive in this life and to thrive in this life and to use the intelligence that he put into our minds and to contemplate the the very nature of God. We would never be
You
able
can
to
argue
contemplate
that.
the nature. We could never even
Oh, he
contemplate
can.
the nature of God.
He
We
can
could
argue
never
that.
even contemplate the nature of God if we didn't have this first understanding of good and bad and
So,
both
so,
senses.
so the answer, which is not an answer, but it is an answer, but it doesn't sound like an answer, is that both answers are right. That on one hand,
That's a cop out.
no, it really is. Okay, first of all, I've heard rabbis
No,
actually be
he's
like,
Get
saying
out
that
of
I
it,
was
what you put
right because
into
that's
it.
what I said.
so
That's what I just said.
on one hand, you can argue with Adam and the whole tree of life and eating from it. And first of all, the snake had a duty to actually entice Adam and Eve. So really, God enticed them, but God also knew they were going to eat. So really, are you blaming Adam for really something that God enticed him to do? Um, or are you blaming Adam because he actually did it? And back then, before they were naked, before everything else, if you want to get biblical, they actually knew right from wrong, but they still got enticed, even though they were in a spiritual realm. And then, Kabbalistically, believe it or not, Adam and Eve were actually one person. It was two different sides, a yin yang. And that's why whenever we get married, we're finding our Chava, our Eve. Eves are finding their Adam, so to fill that void. Um, so that is sad to say a cop out, but it really is the answer that people will say.
Well, this was I knew this would be an excellent conversation, and it definitely has been. It's
Yeah.
I learned a lot just listening. So
I have a dry mouth.
we'll have to do this again sometime. So I consider this part two. We had our first conversation, and this is like part two. And so we'll probably have to have a more in-depth conversation at some point, I think. But thanks again, and hang tight after I wrap up here, and we'll have a little side talk. But thanks again, man.
Yeah.
Great convo as always. See everybody next time.